Okay, everyone, welcome.
Yeah,
Next class.
Looks like Morty.
No, but it's not me. 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 It's an AI version of me. The real me is out golfing. All right. Since next week is Shavuot, and it's Tuesday, and next Tuesday night is Shavuot. So we're going to learn something to do with Torah, in general. Everyone knows Shavuot, Hashem gave us a Torah 3,334 years ago. And it's the best-selling book of all time, the very first book written on the Gutenberg press. And that day was actually the very reason for creation. In fact, when we read the book of Genesis, it says Yom Rishon, the first day, second day. But when it comes to the sixth day, it doesn't say the sixth day, it says the sixth day. Ha Shishi, meaning it wasn't just the day that came after the fifth day. It's the sixth day. Commentaries say that why was the whole world created was for the sixth day, a specific sixth day. What's the sixth day? The sixth day of the month of Sivan, which the Torah was given. And ever since then, we have the code book for humanity, and the Torah is studied every day by the Jewish people. And we have a commentary, and we have till today. Everybody wants to know what does God mean, right? What's God's message to humanity? So everybody knows that the most important thing, the holiest thing in Judaism is the Torah. Right? But we don't find Torahs in people's homes. We find books.
Mm-hmm. Unless your name happens to be Ebenezer Garcia.
Right, yeah. Well, he put it in the show.
Yeah.
Right. But the question for discussion we see on page 70 says, why do Jewish people have so many books? And why don't we have a Torah scroll? If it's so special, every house should have a Torah scroll. And what about
we sort of do.
No, we don't. No, we sort of. Either you have a Torah scroll or you don't. There's no sort of.
No, sort of.
No,
you've got a mezuzah which has
it's not a Torah scroll.
No,
it's not a Torah scroll. A Torah scroll
and
means
it's on parchment.
A Torah scroll means you have all 5 books.
You tried. I tried.
Yeah.
You know you can't argue with him.
Yeah. Feel free to fail again.
That's why his mother named him Monorail.
I've been failing for the last 65 years, so it's okay.
So the what's that? We're gonna not after that. So then, is there value in owning books, even if you're not going to read them? Just to have a Jewish library. Should you? And the next thing, should you display your books publicly in your home or place them privately? So let's get into the Torah. Now, there's a whole discussion. This is not exactly part of this class, just a little history. There's a whole discussion of how the Torah was written. The Torah was not written in one day, obviously. Okay. What I mean is the Torah wasn't written from beginning Genesis to the end of Deuteronomy in one shot. The Torah was written in parts. It was given to the Jewish people in all together. But Moshe wrote from the beginning, from Genesis until the giving of the Torah. He wrote that at Sinai. Then that was before the giving of the Torah. Then after the giving of the Torah, he wrote some more. He wrote from after Pashas Mishpatim, and he wrote all the way through most of Vayikra. And then the question is the end. Well, obviously he didn't write about the story of the spies before it happened. Obviously, but there's actually a mitzvah in the end of the 613th mitzvah. The last mitzvah in the Torah is celebrate Shalom. No, the last mitzvah in the Torah is everyone has to write for themselves a Sefer Torah. Do you know what the mitzvah?
You're saying everybody has to write their own.
Yeah.
Good luck, Charlie.
Well, actually, it's fulfilled by just either paying for having it done or actually helping to put a letter onto one.
So, but we'll get to that. We'll get to that in a minute.
But we've done that.
All right. So we'll get to that. So every person is obligated to write a letter in the Torah. Is an obligation to write Well, not up to that. What? Oh, shoot. The text isn't up there. Okay. Oh, I downloaded the wrong one. All right. So, and
Go download the other one. We'll have fun here and play pinochle.
there you go. Okay, so look at text 1a. To 1a, it says, now for the Jewish people, write for yourself the song, and because we know that no part of the Torah is incomplete. In fact, you're not allowed to write a partial Torah. I mean, obviously, you're allowed to write the Torah in stages, but you can't write only part of the Torah. You have to write the entire thing in order to be called the Torah. So when it says write this, this is what Maimonides says. When it says write this song, it means the entire Torah. And this is a mitzvah that's given to every single person. Now, let's say, for example, your father wrote a Torah, and you inherited a Torah. Like we have here my father's Torah. The one we use every Shabbos, that's my father's Torah. But you still have a mitzvah to write your own Torah. You see text 2a, Maimonides says. It says, even though if it's been given, your ancestors left your Torah, by the way, a king has to write has to have 2 Torahs. One with him all the time, one goes out with him.
It's not so good to be the king.
No, to be the king is a big pain. If you write a Torah by hand, it's considered as if you received it Mount Sinai. If you don't know how to write a Torah, you could commission others to write it for you. And one who repairs or writes a letter, it's considered as he wrote the entire Torah, because we know if a Torah is missing or one letter is damaged, the entire Torah is not good. If you remember a few months ago, we found a letter that was a vav that was too long. We had to put away the Torah and take out another one, because if the letter is no good, no.
You couldn't fix it on the bimah on Shabbos.
No, that for sure. Yeah, no, you can't do that. Because that is called makeh patish. When you perfect something, when you finish it off, when you make it a usable vessel, so to speak. That's one of the 39 prohibited actions. It's called the final touch. And it's translated as makeh patish, the final hit with a hammer. But it means it's final touch, yeah, so you can't do it. And also, even though it's erasing, but erasing for the purpose of doing something good. Yeah, so yeah, you can do it. Now, what happens if you buy a Torah? Right? There's a guy walking through, I'm sure if you walk through the Arab market,
I have for you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Rolexes, Torahs, right? So the Gemara says,
We didn't see any.
huh?
I'm trying to think when we went through the market. We
No, you're not going to see a real Torah. That's not something you see. I mean, if you see a Torah, then it's either stolen or it's not kosher. Yeah. You see those fake ones, the small ones the kids have.
Yeah.
So you can call a sofer now and buy a Torah, right? What we do, that's what we did. We bought, we run a Torah bank. We just gave a Torah now to Chabad of Tamarack. They're starting their minyan. So that's not for us though. That we bought it, we repaired it and sent it out. We're talking about doing the mitzvah for yourself. So the Gemara says, if someone purchased a completed Torah, did you do it? Yeah, but it's like snatching the mitzvah. The Torah says write a Torah. It doesn't say buy a Torah.
What if you bought an incomplete Torah missing the last word, and then you go ahead and fill in the last word?
Okay, so I guess that would be considered what Maimonides. Yeah. I guess that covers what Maimonides. See, like Rashi says on 2c on page 73, you did the mitzvah, but writing it or commissioning to write it is a lot more special. So here comes the obvious question: how many of us have Torah scrolls in our home? 0. Right? The only time you see a Torah in a house is usually a bad sign. Someone's sitting shiva. They're making a minyan in the house.
Because
Well,
they have a minyan there.
Right.
That's what he said.
Yeah, someone's sick.
Well, I saw a Torah in a home, but it was brought over from the shul at the yeshiva
Why?
on Saturday.
Why?
It was brought over before because they were going to do mincha at this rabbi's home, one of the professors of the yeshiva.
Why couldn't he come to shul?
No, he came to shul. It was just everybody was meeting over there because I can't remember the guy's name.
Which, by the way, I'm not talking this case specifically. You can't move a Torah around just for one-time use. according to halacha, Torah has to be used 3 times when you move it.
Well, I don't know
For
how many
what?
times
For
they
what?
moved it.
3 times.
For
In order for you to move it. I mean, I can't just bring the Torah to your house, lay and bring it back. It's not.
you got to use it 3 times.
Yeah. No. Again, that's a general law. There's some qualifiers.
Well, I can't say. When
Exactly.
I walked
Yeah, I know.
The Torah came out, and everybody was getting together for mincha on Saturday.
But it's an unusual occurrence.
It was
Okay,
yeshiva,
well,
and
A friend of my son-in-law's had a Torah commission and
Yeah.
completed, and it was at his house when it was completed.
Yeah. No, but that's
No,
not. Yeah.
The whole story. It was at his house when it was completed, and it was at his house for a short while until they had a procession from his house to the
Right.
shul, which is up the block. and
Right.
around the
Yeah,
corner.
that's normal. That's normal. But again, it's an unusual occurrence. And also, by the way, there's a lot of problems keeping a Torah in your house. Because, for example, right, you can't behave like you normally do with the Torah in the house. Torah has to have a double covering, right? So it has in talis, and over here. You think the fact that there's doors and a curtain just for no reason? If they didn't have doors and a curtain, we wouldn't be able to eat here. You know, there's a reason why it has a double cover. So if you bring a Torah into your house, and there's a married couple there, there's problems. I mean, a Torah is the holiest thing, but so obviously we don't keep a Torah. The question is why. The Torah seems to say straight out, everyone write for yourself a Torah. It doesn't mean write for yourself a Torah and store it in a warehouse. I know a rabbi. I think I've told the story before. He's from a very affluent community. So people over there have a lot of money. So what do they want to do for honor? He says, write a Torah. He says, I'm going crazy. He says, I don't need a Torah. I need money he has a very nice big shul. His overhead is quite substantial. So I don't need $50,000 a Torah. I need $50,000 to pay the bills. I said, and then the whole thing, Yom Kippur, you take all the Torah, Simchas Torah. Where do you store the Sefer Torah? I said, I have such headaches. I said, may God strike me with such a headache. You know what I'm saying? Like the line from the Fiddler on the Roof, may God strike me with that curse. I mean, I never recover, right?
The shul where my son was affiliated had about 7 or 8 Sefer Torahs in the
this guy has like
because
20.
They close the shul here, they close the shul there, and they acquire the Torah.
So I asked this guy, so why don't you give the Torahs away? Not to loan it. He said, I can't. Why? Because people come to shul, they want to see their Torah in the ark.
Boy.
Because, well, Rabbi, what do you mean? I donated the Torah to the shul. Yeah, it's a headache. Anyway, so
that brings up an interesting question, but I'll talk to you about it
okay.
later.
So the obvious question is, if it's what we did away with that mitzvah, Mela, a mitzvah like that has to do with agriculture in Israel, right, or the temple. We don't. It's not applicable now. Is there any reason to believe this mitzvah doesn't apply now?
No.
It has nothing to do with the land of Israel, nothing to do with the temple, nothing to do with purity and impurity. Do you know a Torah can't get impure? You know what? Let's say a person's impure. Let's say a modern day example, a woman on her period touches a Torah. Is the Torah impure? No, she shouldn't touch a Torah. That's why the older woman touches it with the siddur. Why did the older woman do it? Because this way you don't want to embarrass. That's why. In general, by the way, talks about people shouldn't touch the Torah, period. That's where men touch with the talis. Even if you went to the mikveh, you still shouldn't touch the Torah. And we're talking about touching the handles and the cover. To touch the parchment, you don't touch it.
That's why you have a yad.
No, in Chabad we don't use the yad, period. In go to a Chabad shul, we don't use the yad.
So this isn't a bad shul.
No, we do a lot of things here that are not Chabad customs. Yeah, this is not This is not a Lubavitcher shul. It's a Chabad shul, Chabad house shul. But even when sometimes you got to move the parchment. You have to first of all you have to go to the mikveh. You have to use it. Even if you went to the mikveh, you can't touch it. So this is not a mitzvah that seems that we shouldn't do it these days. How come no one writes a Torah today? When was the last time you went to a house and you saw so obviously there's reasons for it. Okay. So first of all, it's important to note, and this goes also back to Shavuos, the Torah was given in two parts, two equal parts. Well, it's not, one part completes the other. Maybe I'm using the wrong word as two parts. One is written and one is oral. And many times, and this is a discussion maybe for another day, and many times people confuse, the written law is like serious. The oral law is it's interpretation. It's not interpretation. If I'm telling you, if you don't speak French, and I tell you this is the word in French, and I tell you this is what it means, and okay, I believe you this is the French word, but I don't believe you what that means. What do you mean? I'm the one who taught you the French word. Of course you believe me, right?
If you don't know, you've got no basis to criticize.
Exactly. Like I tell you, watch, if you go to Torah Cafe. Torah Cafe is like Chabad.org's thing of classes. If you want to look up, let's say you want to look up a lecture or a topic, you go to torahcafe.com, it's all there. So you look up Rabbi Emmanuel Shachatz.
OU women.
Huh?
I said OU women's.
I'm saying they have. I'm sure they have some women also. No, but they have men, women, everything. So Emmanuel Shachatz debate, a lecture about against the Christian interpretation of the Bible. You guys don't know how to read Hebrew. You come 1,600 years after Sinai, you're going to tell us how to translate it? So what kind of chutzpah is that? You be quiet. We tell you how to translate it. You don't tell us. These days, there's a whole cockamamie discussion of what the Hebrew means. We'll tell you what the Hebrew means. There's never been a broken chain of tradition of what the translation is. There's never been a word that we don't know how to translate. Right? So the oral law is not a secondary part. It is the Torah. That means when Hashem, I tell this, Moshe was a great man, right? Yeah. Was he very smart?
Reasonably so.
Reasonably so.
Yeah.
What do you think he was doing on the mountain for 40 days and 40 nights? You think God was teaching him the written law? Why would he teach him to it? Teach it to him. He was writing it down. So what was he doing in 40 days and 40 nights? Playing golf?
He could have been.
Praying for the Rangers?
He could have been.
Could have been.
Sorry.
So what was he doing? No? God, he was learning. He was learning. What was he learning? No?
The
The
Torah.
oral Torah.
The oral. That means when God said ABC, it means this. When God says you shall bind a sign on your hand, it means black boxes, all that. Everything that we don't, it's not explicitly in the text. God was teaching him. So it's not a second part of the Torah. It is part of the Torah. But the Torah is given in two fashions. One is written and one is oral. Now, if you look at text 3a, page 74, the Gemara says that the original, or plan A, was written is written, was oral is oral, and you're not allowed. And I have this issue with Mendy. His bar mitzvah is in 3 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks. Yeah, I know. And
Thereabouts.
yeah, somewhere around. I think 2 weeks, and he knows the parsha almost by heart. He's been doing it for many months. And then many times I see him like, I said, no, the parsha, you have to read it inside. You're not allowed to do the written law by heart. Because you have to do it inside. Now, the oral law, originally you weren't allowed to write down. It had to be oral. Now.
But that's changed.
Oh, yeah, we'll get to that. The class is not over. It's only 7:55.
It's only 7:55?
Yeah, relax.
What have you been doing for the last 25 minutes?
Again, thinking about the Rangers. Now, what happened? What happened was that the situation on the ground changed. It means plan A was that Moshe would bring the Jews into Israel. They'd live in Israel forever, in security, and live happily ever after. Right? Oh, God. So what happened was the Jewish people sinned, and going into Israel wasn't the way it should have been, and then the Jewish people sinned some more with idolatry, and there was destruction of the temple, expulsion, and all that. Then, yeah, it's true they came back, but in order to, you see what we have over here. This is nothing. right? The oral law. Imagine to keep it all up in here. You know what you need to memorize? You need peace and quiet. Mendy's doing the mimer. It's a lecture of Chassidus. He's doing it in Yiddish, because that's the way the Rebbeim would say it. Now for Mendy, doesn't speak a word of Yiddish. It's quite a task. I mean, I'm pretty proud of him. Mendy Goldschmidt did it also.
Yeah.
I was telling you, so for me, although I didn't grow up speaking Yiddish, but I grew up in Brooklyn.
And you heard it.
The Rebbe spoke Yiddish, the teachers spoke Yiddish, everyone spoke Yiddish. I didn't speak it. So it was a lot softer on my ear. For Mendy, I admire this kid's, and he knows it. I just tested him before, he knows it. But in order to memorize, I can't have Sarah playing piano and Kalman watching a video. To memorize, you need peace and quiet.
Right here.
Exactly. So you need peace and quiet. Quiet meaning no noise, but peace means you can't be worried that the Romans and the Persians are going to come and chop off your head. There was a practical issue that the Torah was being forgotten. So Rabbi Yehuda said, in order to keep the Torah, I have to violate the Torah. There's a verse like that. It's read. This is a line. There's a time to do for Hashem to go against His Torah. So in order to preserve Torah, they had to go against the Torah, the law. So Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, you see in text 3b, made a calculation. Said it's best that I violate this one ordinance, and the Torah will be forgotten forever. We find this that the rabbis violated in order to keep. I know we're far away from Purim, but the culmination of the story of Purim was in the month of Sivan. Yeah. 23rd day of Sivan is the day that the whole story at Haman. Anyway, so Mordechai, when he's fasting, when the Jewish people fasted for 3 days, the third day of the fast was Pesach. Everybody knows you're not allowed to fast on a biblical holiday. You're not allowed to. Rabbinical also, but even more. So Mordechai reasoned that it's better that the Jewish people shouldn't keep Pesach. Not keeping Pesach meaning no matzah, not eating the Pesach lamb and all that. This one time, that Pesach shouldn't be abolished forever. So there is precedence for this concept. So now, once the Torah started being written down, meaning not in Torah. When I say Torah, I don't only mean the 24 books of the Torah, which it wasn't 24 books of the Torah until the end of the Second Temple. I mean, the 5 books of Moshe was for sure. The book of Joshua was for sure. The book of Shmuel was for sure. But then you had the later prophets. Are they biblical or not? There's a whole vote. Do you know it?
Rabbi Elvis.
Rabbi Elvis. What are you talking about? That joke flew over my head.
Elvis Presley.
I know Elvis Presley. What does that have to do with this discussion here?
Well, you said the later prophets.
Elvis is considered a prophet?
You know how much money he made, dead or alive?
A prophet with an F.
Dead and alive. That's
Okay.
a prophet.
Okay. We're going to take that joke and we're going to bury it. All right, we're going to throw it into the Atlantic in Antigua. That was bad. But there's a whole discussion. In the Gemara, a whole argument amongst the rabbis, debate amongst the rabbis, like about, for example, the books of Kohelet, Ecclesiastes, Proverbs, Song of Songs, Song of the Megillah. All these, are they apocrypha? Because they're better. There were other books written of prophecy, but are they included in the canon of the Bible? What was the whole discussion? It was only locked and sealed. 1 second, at the end of the Second Temple. Yeah.
I was going to say, is the book of Esther considered Tanakh?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
It's considered Ksuvim. So there's 3 levels. There's Torah, 5 books.
Yeah.
Then there's Nevi'im, the prophets, and then there's Ksuvim.
The writing.
Ksuvim is writings. Yeah. So you have Divrei Yamim, Mishlei. Divrei Yamim is Chronicles. So Chronicles, Proverbs, Tehillim, Ecclesiastes, Megillah. And you have the 5 Megillas. You have Megillah Eicha. That's not prophets. That's writings.
There's Esther and
Yeah. There's Kehelis, Mishlei, Esther, Eicha. What's the other one?
about Ruth.
Rus, right? Rus, Megillas Rus. Yeah, that's number 5. Yeah. Anyway, so when I say Torah, I mean the 24 books, right? But once he started writing things down, because the way it used to work was, you had your Torah, your entire Torah, and then you would learn from it and then discuss it, right? But now, once the Torah started written down, so now they started writing down bits and parts to study. So meaning it wasn't anymore you had to write down all 5 books. Remember at the beginning of the class he said you had to write down the entire Torah. Now we wrote down, it was still on papyrus or parchment, but that's what's called a chumash. Chumash comes from the word chamesh, 5, right? So they wrote the Torah down in parts. In fact, there's this whole story of Hanina ben Tesa? No, it wasn't Hanina ben Tesa, because it was one of the 10 martyrs. I can't, no. Was it Hanina ben Tesa? Anyway, the Torah says that he was responsible for keeping Jewish education alive, because what happened was he sowed flax, and from the flax he made nets, and then he trapped deer, and with the deer he gave the meat to the poor, and on the skin he wrote the Torah in 5 different books. He wrote in 5 different skins, and he went to a town and he would teach one person Bereshis, one person Ishmael, and everyone now teach each other. And then he went around Israel. That's why when the Romans executed him, how did they execute him? They burned it. They wrapped the Torah around him and they burned him alive. And actually, what happened, this is not for now necessarily, but they put wet new vine to prolong his suffering. I know they also put the wet sponges. And the students asked him, "What do you see?" He said, "I see the parchment is being burned, but the letters ascending to heaven." And the executioner was so moved by that. He says, "If I remove the sponges and the wet vine, so do I have a portion in the world to come?" Rabbi Chanina said, "Yes." And he removed it and he jumped into the fire with Rabbi Chanina ben Tesa. Yeah, it's very sad. Anyway. So, but the Torah you see here that Rabbi Yisrael Karo wrote today, it's a mitzvah. We write the 5 books of the Torah, and well, the Mishnah, and the Talmud, and their commentary. So, why don't we all have Torahs? Because the study of Torah is different today. Today, the study is shifted. Because now you have the Torah, and you have the Gemara, and you have Mishnah, and you have everything else, and the Rosh. The Rosh lived, you see on the text 4b, page 75. If you want to read that little, he's a very interesting person, this Rabbi Yechiel ben Asher. And he was a native of Germany. Then he went to other places, and he was a disciple of Meir Rutenberg. Meir Rutenberg was the father of Ashkenazic Jewry. He is the rabbi who was locked in a tower and refused because the rabbi would not let him. The rabbis would not let the Jewish community ransom him. They said, and it's going to be the Gentiles would kidnap Torahs or people, and if they can get their hands on a holy rabbi, a big rabbi, he was worth a lot of money. So this the mayor of Württemberg tried to escape. Germany, it was Prussia, and there was an apostate in Italy. He tried to go to the land of Israel. There was an apostate in Italy who recognized him. And he went to the guy and said, "Listen, this Jew who's walking around, this is not Jew, this is the leader of Ashkenazic Jewry." So he sent them back to Prussia, and he told the Jewish community, "I'll only let him out if you give him a crazy amount of money." And the Jewish community was ready to pony up the money. And Rameir said, "Absolutely not. Absolutely not." I mean, this is what Jewish life was, in the 1300s for Jews in Europe. Anyway, so he writes, this Rosh who took over from, he writes that the requirement to write a Torah was binding on the early generations. Why? Because they needed the Torah to study, right? They only had one written text, and then they would learn from it. Today, the Torahs are used for reading on Shabbos and the Chag. Therefore, the contemporary Jew of means is obligated to transcribe the books of Chumash. Your job is, again, he wrote this. He lived 1250 to 1328. This is before the printing press. Your job is to make sure you have the basic books, Chumash, Mishnah, Talmud, and to study. All right. So now, but this question leads us to another question. How come there's no emphasis on writing Torah books? Okay, you don't have to write a Torah, but you can write down Chumash. it sounds like we're in class, we're in school. What was the punishment in Jewish school? You had to write down Mishnayos or Gemara or. Sometimes the rabbis would tell us, write 10 lines, and finally we realized, he's not checking, so we skip a line here and there.
That would be the day they'd check.
Exactly. My brother had a business. He'd have my sisters write, "I will not," or different things, and then he would tell us. The guy had an assignment. Yeah, yeah. I'm not joking.
Wow.
I don't gotta tell you which brother, but you'll meet him. He'll be
I'll
able
ask.
to.
Were you the one?
Yeah.
Look in the mirror.
Yeah. No, it wasn't me. I couldn't employ my older sisters. I'm the youngest. Anyway, so one question is, how come these days we buy books? Okay, I understand you don't have to commission writing a Torah, but maybe every person should have to go and have the Franklin edition of the Gemara, the Schrager edition, right? You should pay to commission the printing of a book, no?
They could put the whole thing on a chip.
I think it already is. I mean,
yeah, but how are you going to read a chip, right? So in the end, so we learned before that buying a Torah is like right? It's like the cheap way of doing the mitzvah. So what do we say? You could buy books, but you should really write it. That doesn't exist.
That fella up on Masada, who is he writing the Torahs for?
I don't know. The other question, the obvious question is, who are the rabbis to go and change the commandment? We've gotten into this discussion before, that the rabbis can only loophole and bend it when it's not explicit. When the Torah is explicit, you can't do anything. I remember we had this discussion about the aguna, the woman who needs a divorce, right? And we said, the Torah says he has to commission the writing, or write it, or commission the writing. The rabbi's hands are locked. If the Torah says something openly, explicitly, you can't do anything. There's a whole argument about tefillin. Why? Because the Torah is very vague. Right.
So bind them for a sign upon your eye.
Exactly. But now we know what it is, but the argument exactly what order the portions go in there. Meaning, when the Torah is vague, there's discussion, or you can room to maneuver, the rabbis can make loopholes, or right, all that. But when the Torah is explicit, there's nothing. 7 days Shabbos. There's nothing to talk about, right? The Torah is very clear over here. Everyone write for yourself a Sefer Torah. How can the rabbis come and change it? Yeah? You understand the question? Good question?
It's a trick question.
It's a trick question, right? The rabbis do sometimes argue with God, but there's parameters. You know the story. There's the rabbi was arguing with 3 other rabbis.
There's 4 opinions.
Right? And he was so sure he was right. He says, if I'm right, give me a sign. It starts raining. So he says, you see, I'm right. The other rabbis say, the forecast called for rain. So he say, you're arguing some more. So if I'm right, show me a sign. All of a sudden, the ground starts shaking. We live in California. It's a
tremor.
We live in a fault line. Argue some more. It says, if I'm right, show me a sign. Finally, a voice comes from heaven. No, he's right. So 3 rabbis say, it's still 3 against 2. Right? So what would rabbis to do this? Okay. So let's first deal with the second question. Why does the Torah tell us to write the Torah? What's the purpose of writing a Torah?
So you don't forget it.
So you learn, right?
Yeah, learn.
Is the mitzvah to write it? Or the mitzvah what it's written for?
That's a good question.
Both.
No. The mitzvah is what do you write it for? So for example, 5a, the mitzvah of mezuzah. When there's a mitzvah, you make a bracha, right?
Uh-huh.
When do you make the bracha on the mezuzah? When you write it, when you put it up?
When you put it up.
When you put it up. Why? Because the writing isn't the mitzvah. It's putting up. You're writing in order to put it up. Same thing that the Torah says, you should bind the 4 species together. We don't make the bracha when we're making the lulav. We don't make the bracha when we build the sukkah. We don't make the bracha when we make the tefillin. We make the bracha when we actually do the mitzvah.
When you use them.
But everything before is only considered a lead up, a preamble for it. Same thing is the whole reason why you need to write a Torah is to learn. Which is we make a bracha on learning Torah. It's in the morning blessings. I guess the rabbis were confident you can learn Torah every day. They put it in the siddur. Right, so you see in 5b, the Rambam says, before you put the mezuzah, you make the bracha. We not recite the blessing when mezuzah is written, because the definition of the mezuzah is the act of fixing it. So,
the other question I have, it says inscribe them on the doorpost. If you take that very literally, it means just write it there, not to create a parchment, not to create a holder.
Okay, so that's by the way goes back to the oral law. Same thing with the tefillin. That's why you see the Torah is such a cryptic book. You can't have it. You can't. Some people say I'm going to take it literally. You can't do that. Either you take the book literally, or you don't take the book literally. You can't jump. It means either you accept the entirety of the oral law or you don't. Right? Which is part of the problem. This is why there's inconsistencies in the other interpretations of the Torah, right? Other practices of the Torah, without getting into specifics. Some things they take literally, some things you don't. Some things you like to, so for example, you know how to read Hebrew? Yeah? How do you know? Who taught you the vowels? Who taught you? I'm saying, not me. I'm saying, I mean, who taught you saying what letters? That's oral tradition. So you can't go. So you can't go
Mati.
yeah. So you can't go to rabbinical Judaism and say, "Oh, we believe you how to read it. We believe you, but in this we don't."
But in modern Israel, they've discarded some of the vowels that we've used for years.
No, but that's a modern language. That's not biblical.
Well,
It's not the same. Well, what he's saying is it's not the same.
no matter how you look at
Which
it.
vowels have they discarded?
Patach.
No, that in general discarded patach and kamatz.
Yeah.
No, they discarded kamatz.
Yeah.
By the Ashkenazim, kamatz is oh. By them it's ah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you think we don't? We know we have problems with our reading, like we have tough and tough, right?
Mm-hmm.
They don't have. They have tough and tough,
Yeah.
and we have.
Whether it's got a dot or it doesn't.
Right, they say tough and tough. And then, for example, by us, our chaf and ches is the same. Our aleph and ayin is the same. It can't be. They're different letters. We know we're pronouncing it wrong. We know, but because we don't know how to pronounce it absolutely correct, we don't.
We accept whatever pronunciations happen to be in vogue for the week.
Not in vogue, passed down through our tradition. Tradition is the most authoritative thing after the written word. That's how strong it is. Tradition is very, very. Now, what happened?
Tevye said that too.
Yeah, but it's not. But it's a good thing you're saying. Bring that up. But that's tradition with no learning, no education. That's all we don't know. Yes, we do know. We do know. I'm saying, but the problem with the pronunciation is the Jewish people were sent into the diaspora, and their pronunciation was affected by the surrounding. So we lost. I'm saying, so the Yemenites, for example, they have aleph and ayin. They have different ones, and also their resh. They say, I heard this once from a guy. They say the Yemenites are the closest ones to the true pronunciation. But again, the Yemenites don't say tough and tough. They say tough and tough. But we know tough and tough are different letters. It's written way back. We know which letters that have a dot, that have a double pronunciation, and we also know that every single what's the word I'm looking for? Vocalized sound is included in the aleph base. We know, but like today we don't have a W, we don't have a G.
Well, look at the German language. They don't.
I don't care about the Germans. I'm
No,
on
what
Hebrew.
I'm saying is that languages have their idiosyncrasy.
No, I'm saying, but Lashon HaKodesh, the holy tongue, is the source of all creation. Everything is in it. So, for example, we assume strongly that when a gimel has a dot, it makes a G sound. Gimel and Gimel. when a vav has a dot, the vav and wav, like W, and there's no th in Hebrew. So they say that the test with a dot is th. That's what they think. Again, the problem is you can't go starting something new because you think. It doesn't work that way. You do. So one of the things that drive me crazy is my pet peeve. A guy's raised religious. This is like one of my biggest pet peeves. A guy's raised observant, religious. He went to Jewish school and he learned a certain way how to speak, how to read. Forget speak, read, right? And all of a sudden, because he went to Israel, now he decides he's going to read a different way. It doesn't work that way. You can't just discard the way your father taught you. If your father's Ashkenaz, then you read it. And if you didn't learn, fine, you didn't learn. But if you went...
The biggest problem is because I learned one way and everybody else, modern, is pronouncing slightly different. And I'm looking at the word, which way do I say it?
Taught us differently too.
Mati probably taught you the Sephardic way because that's the way most people learn today.
Yeah.
But if you were raised observant, I mean, you went to a Jewish school and you raised
Baruch. What else can I tell you?
Saying Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Melech Ha'olam, right? And you say Baruch Atah. Who are you to go change it? I don't understand. Just because in Israel they're doing it, you want to be a Zionist? Like I don't get it.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't just throw off your parents' tradition willy-nilly.
See, that's,
I mean,
that's what I do. I mix the two.
See, Mela, if your parents weren't religious and your parents didn't teach you, or your parents were uneducated, fine, it's one thing. But you went to Beis Yaakov, you went to whatever it is. You can't just. I mean, I know we're going off the subject there, but like, there are certain things in the Siddur we know don't apply today. We know certain things, like for example about the head of the Babylonian jewelry still in the Siddur. Why don't we throw it out? Because we have a tradition to say it, and we don't just throw things out. It's not so.
That's why I don't throw things away.
Jeez.
Yeah, like I once I got a meme or something. That nothing gives a man more pleasure than finding a use for that. Showing his wife that there was a use for that piece of wood I had in the garage right now.
For 28 years it was there, and I put it to work.
There you go. Okay, let's go. We're running very, very late. All right, so there's a few good things about the benefits of the written word. Number one, you could look on the screen. Inspiration. When you look at the Torah, these are the exact words that were passed down from Moshe Rabbeinu. I mean, that should hit home. This is not an idea. These are the exact words that Moshe wrote down. It's been copied, and according to halacha, a scribe is only allowed to copy from either another Torah scroll or a certified chumash, meaning a chumash that it's been verified that it's exact text of the Torah.
Who does the verification?
No, I mean, if you print a chumash in the Jewish community and there's a mistake,
You hear about it.
they're not carrying a chumash. I mean, you pick up a chumash, it's because it's been edited, it's been reviewed. So, for example, that chumash that we printed, we bought. If there's a mistake, they're gonna, yeah. There might be differences of opinion in the notes, cantillation notes. That you find sometimes difference of opinion, but the actual letters and vowels, that's.
And that is printed in the conventional Hebrew.
In the conventional
Torah
print.
Is
Assyrian script, it's called.
this Assyrian?
No, this is similar. Assyrian script, yeah. This is called Assyrian script, yeah.
That's Assyrian.
Yeah.
And what's the Torah called?
No, that's Assyrian. It's called Ksav Ashuris. Where the Torah is written is Ksav Ashuris. This is a block print similar to that.
Similar, but we don't have the little flourishes.
No, why need it? Yeah, it's unnecessary.
And that doesn't really tell you anything other than it was done by
No, what are you talking about?
it was done by an artist.
No, that's not why.
No?
No, there's a famous medrash when Moshe Rabbeinu went up on Mount Sinai, he saw God writing the Torah, the letters, and he saw the Tagim,
Yeah.
and he said, "What's that for?" So he says, "There's going to come a time. There's going to be a man who's going to learn law from the Tagim." And he said, "Show him to me." Moshe said, asked. So Hashem showed Moshe a vision of Rabbi Akiva teaching. And Moshe was sitting in the 5th row. And Rabbi Akiva was speaking, and Moshe didn't understand what was going on. He was lost. So Moshe felt very bad. Like, I'm the one giving it there. So this guy's giving a class, and I don't understand what's flying. So Hashem said, listen a little bit. So one of the students asked a question. So he said, how do you know? In the Rabbi Akiva answer, because we learn everything out from Moshe at Sinai. Nothing in the Torah is extra or artistic or poetic.
I'm not saying extra or poetic. It's done that way for a reason.
No, that's not why.
No?
No. The reason, no. According to halacha, certain letters have to have the tagim, they're called, in order to be considered kosher, yeah. And certain letters, there are different scripts. There's Sfard, Ashkenaz, Ari, and Alter Rebbe. And depending on which script, you might add a tagim, or the letters, the ends of the letters may come more to a point.
But the Chumash doesn't have that.
No, because the Chumash is meant for us to read. It doesn't have to have it.
Right. But the thing is, you say he can write a Torah using a Chumash and authorized.
No. Writing a Torah meaning to make sure the letters are right. I mean, to make sure you're writing the right words in the right order.
The right words in the right order, but you're going to have a little.
No, you're not copying the letters from the Chumash. You have experience. When you learn Safros, you learn how to make a Torah Aleph.
And all Torah Alephs are the same?
With minor, yeah. There are four different.
What I'm getting at.
Yeah, there are 4 different types of script, but the minor differences, yeah. But the answer is yeah.
Okay, so every Aleph, every base, every letter would
Yeah,
be...
pretty much. I mean, the Ches is a little bit different in different places, yeah.
The other thing is that you're using 2 Vavs to make a Ches.
2 Zayins, or a Vav and a Zayin. Some people say it's 2 Zayin, a Vav and a Zayin, yeah. And an Aleph is a Vav and 2 Yuds.
One upside down?
Yep. That's why the Torah has 308,000 and 308, 650 something, I think. And it says there's 600,000 letters in the Torah. There aren't 600,000 letters in the Torah. That's 308,000. But since multiple letters are made up of multiple letters, it comes out to 600,000. The Ayin, for example, there's a Yud there. Yeah. Tzaddik has a Yud there. Anyway. So number one, it hits home when you open up the Torah and you say, "This is the words, the very words of Moshe." There's something special about having the written Torah. So it'll always be present in our mind. It's not an old book. It's something. It hits home. Number 2, when you have a Torah, when you have a Chumash, you're going to learn from it. Look at text number 6. Sefer HaChinuch writes, it says, the reason for this mitzvah is well known, that the people behave according to what is prepared for them. Therefore, Hashem commanded that every Jew prepare a Torah scroll to have it with them, so they could always learn from it. You don't have to go to you don't have to go to the library. If I have to learn, I have to go borrow a book from you. Forget it. Put the book's on the shelf, and I'm gonna learn from it. It'll lead to more study. Number 3, the Rebbe says, when you learn from something in front of you, the letters help you understand. The Rebbe says, studying from a book is easier and deeper. It says there's a line. It says it's parentheses, letters and light. It shields us from error because what is learned from a book is not easily forgotten. When you're looking at the text, it helps you to learn it. You learn it clearer. You learn better. You don't forget. And also, if you learn it, you can go back. There's a whole discussion. The Gemara is in a certain way, right? The Gemara, it's called Suras Hadaf. And there's certain people with photographic memory that can tell you exactly where it is on the page. If you show them a piece of a paper, they can tell you it's from this tractate. So Rabbi Adin Steinsaltz, he did a Gemara. Like a running commentary. And the whole format is changed. People were like, how do you do that? It was a whole controversy. You're messing up the whole Suras Hadaf. Because when you learn it, you can.
You bring that up. When I had to learn some lectures, when I was reciting the lectures, I was actually reading it in my mind.
Yeah, off the top of the page, yeah. So now we can understand, a little bit of the shift. So the purpose of the Torah is not to write the Torah. The purpose of the Torah is to learn, so you don't forget. So is it necessary for everyone to write a Torah? To have a Torah scroll in your house? No.
How can you go over your, how can you avoid going to your neighbors to borrow his scroll? That's in contradiction to.
No, I'm saying is the whole point is that you should be able to learn.
Yeah.
So you have it. The purpose is to learn, not to have it. You know, Jackie Mason has a joke. What's the happiest day? A guy has a boat.
Yeah.
Right?
The day he sells it.
No,
That's
that's not Jackie Mason. So why do Jews have a boat? Jews don't know anything about tools, don't know anything about the ocean. Why do Jews have a boat? Not to use it, to show off to their neighbors. Their friend comes over, see my boat? Good, let's go.
See my boat? Good. Let's go.
The purpose of a Torah is not to show off to your
I
friends.
just saw that whole routine at
Oh, yeah?
Oxford.
Oh, yeah? So the purpose of the Torah is to learn it. I think I've told the story in this class before that before Pesach you're supposed to clean out your books. Why? Because you were learning, and while you're learning you got hungry.
You got to eat a cracker.
Right?
You eat
So
matzah.
it's a chametz. So when I was a kid, I already started, investing in buying books. Svar. So one time, I went up to my father. I said, "Listen, Ta. I think I had a Rambam. I didn't use it the entire year. Do I still have to clean it for Pesach?" My father says, "Your punishment for not learning from the books for the entire year is you have to clean it for Pesach." The whole point of having the books is not, or one of those thing where you pull the book thing and the whole turns around, right? Right? It's not meant as a facade. The whole point of having the Torah is to learn from it. Look at text 8a. The purpose to write a Torah is the purpose of studying it. As the passage says, teach it to your children. It's through Talmud and commentaries that we gain understanding. Therefore, these are the books that are required to transcribe. And Moshe Feinstein continues. We can't know the oral Torah from studying the Torah scroll. Right? We've been through this. You can't remember everything. So meaning we're not modifying God's commandment. God wants us to have a Torah to learn from it. So we're enhancing in order that we don't forget the Torah, because otherwise you wouldn't know how to read it, and when you had the verse, we wouldn't know how to explain it. We wouldn't know how to observe the Torah. So we're not modifying God's commandment. In fact, this is the way we are keeping God's commandment. We're publishing books, right? So now. Anyway, text number 9, you'll read it yourself. It's a very, very long text of exactly how a Torah is written and what it takes to write a Torah and all the laws. It takes about 8 to 12 months to write a Torah. 8 months, and you're writing it every day. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. And again, if he makes a mistake, he has to scratch it off. And if he makes a mistake in God's name, he loses the whole sheet. Right? And he has to go to the mikveh every single day. There's one guy I heard once that went to the mikveh every single time before he wrote God's name. Do you understand what that means? God's name in the Torah is, I don't know, hundreds of times? Not thousands. Thousands? Hundreds probably. I don't know. Maybe. Whatever it is. You know what it means? I mean, so
He writes 4 words.
Took longer than 8 months.
yeah,
He
sure.
goes to the mikveh, he writes 10 words, he goes to the mikveh.
It depends. I mean, for example, in the book of Genesis,
Yeah,
God's name is less.
yeah.
In the book of Exodus, in the book of Leviticus, it's every line.
Leviticus 29, it's 27 times.
Thank you. There you go. So now, the requirement is to have books to study. So the requirement, meaning the obligation of having books to study, carried over when society changed, that we were forgetting and we had to transcribe. So the obligation changed. I mean, the requirement carried over, but not necessarily the way the way we do the mitzvah changed. I mean, at the time that Hashem gave Moshe the Torah, there was only written law, and all the oral law was remembered. Therefore, the way to fulfill the Torah, the mitzvah of writing Torah, was writing a Torah, right? But once that changed, because we said because of persecution and forgetfulness and everything else, so now the requirement is having printed or written books. So you don't have to write with the Torah. Look what the Rebbe says in text 10. He says, in an early generation, the commandment was that you should write for yourself a Torah was to write a Torah scroll. This triggered many ancillary requirements. This was writing with mindfulness, right? The scribe can't just, he has to, and a scored sheet of parchment writing the entire book. In other words, it's self-understood when the mitzvah was modified, the requirements to pertain to writing a Torah scroll did not carry over. We don't need to write these books ourselves, commission someone to write them or repair them. These books do not require or even a human being to write them. You can write printed ones. The Rebbe says you can have a monkey jump on the keyboard.
Hey, given enough time, you'll do it.
Exactly, right? So, for example, we have over here prayers in the place of sacrifices. Right? When the temple was around, you needed a Kohen to take care of the sacrifice. You needed an animal and everything else. Now we don't have the temple, so we have the time of the prayer, right? Morning, afternoon. That's the place. But you don't need a Kohen to lead the prayer. It's because it's the idea of the connecting to God. Because the situation changes, there's no temple, so we don't say that the commandment doesn't apply anymore. No, the situation changed. So now we're fulfilling the same commandment in a different way. So the Rebbe continues, text number 11. In previous generations, the commandment was fulfilled through writing a Torah. When one wrote a Torah scroll, it was receiving the Torah from the entirety of Mount Sinai for the first time. This experience inspired one to study the Torah. However, this applies to a degree in all places and all times when we purchase Torah books and study from them. You purchase a book, you get excited. You want to use it. That's why it's so important, by the way, that everyone should participate in the writing of a Torah, for a letter, and everyone should chip in for the community Torah. That means when you get called up, it's your Torah. And because the Torah is incomplete without one letter, so then there's everyone's important. That's why the Rebbe made such a big push. Number one, that everyone should have a letter in the Torah. Commission, meaning you pay for a letter. You can go to, I'll give you the website. Number one. Number two, everyone should have a house full of books. Because when you have Jewish books in your house, what are you going to study? Jewish things, right? You go into a Jewish house, there's firm. That's the way. And when you're surrounded, I remember I was once talking to my mother about getting a dog. And my mom said, you can't have a dog. Why? Because you have all these holy books around. It's a problem. Dog is a dirty animal. Jews traditionally had cats. Help with the rodent problem. Now there were sometimes Jews that had dogs, but that was for protection. But, yeah. But everyone should have Jewish books at home. And everyone should have the minimum Jewish books. The minimum Jewish books means Chumash, right? You need a Chumash. You need a Siddur. Everyone needs a code of Jewish law. Either the Shulchan Aruch or the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, a bridge version.
I know.
Everyone should have a Tanya, book of Chassidus, because that teaches you how to serve God. This is, and when you walk in and you feel like you're in a Jewish environment, it affects your whole way you act. Like when you're supposed to behave a certain way in shul, you're supposed to.
Well, you should also have Isaac Asimov's exploitation.
What?
Isaac Asimov did a.
What is that?
He did a entire book. He did a lot of it, but he wrote about the Torah, the Bible. He did a complete explanation in his view.
So why would I have him?
Because there's another book by a Jewish guy about a Jewish subject.
Yeah, but is it based on Jewish?
It's based on science fiction.
Okay, so you can take that book and you can, yeah.
I'll see. I'm pretty sure I got a copy of it somewhere.
I have no idea. You want to say something?
Okay, when you're done with your,
okay.
I'll make a comment.
Anyway, so text 13 is an interesting article. It says that the children are brought up in homes with books, not Jewish books. This is not a Jewish study. With books, they learn more, they read more, they're more well behaved. Because when you're in an environment, it adds to your behavior. One of the biggest problems, the biggest misconceptions people are in denial that I can act however I want and my environment doesn't affect me. It's not true. When that's the QR code to go to get a letter in the Torah. But when you're in a Jewish environment, you act Jewish. That's just the reality. I mean, we all have gone to the wall. The environment impacts us. It affects us. Why? Because when you're in a Jewish environment, it affects you. So everyone get a letter in the Torah, and buy books. Buy books. Yeah.